The new promotional video for anime season 4 is finally here, but it seems the community is divided once again for a very good reason. After all, the new PV looks very different compared to the previous 3 seasons, whether it's the animation, or simply how the PV doesn't really give a good scenes that could reassure the watchers. Whether you love the new design or not is purely up to your taste, and we couldn't really argue when it comes to subjective opinion. However, there must be a few aspects that we could criticize objectively. For example, if you look closely in the first few seconds, you will immediately notice some new faces that we have never seen before. The pink-haired girl is the most noticeable, but the girl who sits in front of her is also not a part of the 25 students from the first 3 seasons. If you look further, the girl behind Hirata is also not someone with a familiar face, and if you pause the PV at the right time, there is another new face behind Kushida, who I think resembles Meizono a lot. In this PV, we have shown for new students who never existed in the previous season, so I think the most logical answer for this change is that season 4 will finally adapt the entire 40 students instead of just 25. Although it's a nice addition, I don't think it should be their priority to increase the number of students, because even with just 25, the story wouldn't change much thanks to the future exam that doesn't really make a lot of fuss about numbers. Not to mention that people who only watch the anime without light novel knowledge would definitely be really confused by that sudden change. It's still a really nice addition if they really change the number of students to 40. There are some students who don't appear in the anime but will later become important in the story, so this should be a good way to include them. However, adding 15 new students is the same as hiring 15 new voice actors and puts more burden on the animator, so if the animation quality ends up decreasing, you know which one you should blame first. Speaking of animation, there are a few parts of the PV that indeed don't really look good in the eyes. The most obvious one is how the animation looks like a slideshow, where the only part that moves is just the mouth when the characters are talking. Although Classroom Elite doesn't need a top-tier animation like the famous action anime, the standard of anime quality has been increasing lately, so it's unavoidable that some watchers will end up disappointed. Just like in this Ayanokoji scene, you can see how the camera slides to create the illusion of movement, while in reality it is no different than dragging a picture so the entire picture could be seen on the screen. We can see that kind of direction everywhere in this PV, so it's just natural to think the actual anime will be no different. Fortunately, there are a few scenes that are animated properly, such as the scenes with Ayanokoji and Hiyori. Although it wasn't much, at least they are moving properly. You can see the same thing happen with Matsushita's scene, or the one with Ichika and Kei, so their approach is most likely to focus on the important scene, while the scene where the characters are just talking would be just fine with PowerPoint. Slideshow animation will surely invite criticism, but as long as they could avoid disaster such as One Punch Man, fans would always find a reason to defend it. However, it's worth noted that the PV only gives a scene from the first 2 volumes, while the scene from the uninhabited island exam is nowhere to be seen. Considering the island exam is full of action, maybe they put more attention on it, and didn't show it on the PV to give us a surprise, but let's not put much hope on that possibility. After all, the animation shouldn't become the main selling point of Classroom Elite. As long as they could deliver the thought of Ayanokoji and explain everything in a way that is easy to understand, the animation is just a bonus point. Staying true to the light novel has always become a problem with the anime adaptation, mostly because they tend to cut a lot of important monologue, or simply skip a few scenes to adjust the duration. When it comes to that problem, the new PV surprisingly gives us something that might be a solution. At the end of the PV, we were shown the schedule for when the anime will be aired. Surprisingly, they will air 4 episodes at once, and then 1 episode every Wednesday. If season 4 will air for the entire season, that means we will get a total of 16 episodes, which should be more than enough to adapt for volumes without any skip content. Since the first 4 episodes will be aired at once, 1 volume of the light novel most likely will be adapted into 4 episodes. Which is a welcome change since the previous 3 seasons adapted 1 volume into 3 or 2 episodes, resulting in a lot of skip content. However, 4 episodes for 1 single volume doesn't always mean a good news. It could result in stretched content, and more episodes before reaching the climax could also make the watchers bored, resulting in possibly lower ratings. With all those changes considered, it's not an exaggeration to say Season 4 will be a new chapter of the Classroom Elite anime adaptation, but also a huge gamble with no guarantee to succeed. However, the anime watchers will eventually adapt to all change, so the matter of whether this season will be loved or not will once again depend on how well they could adapt the source material. If we are talking about light novel accuracy, this new promotional video actually feels so wrong in a lot of scenes. Not only because of the new faces in Class D, but also because the clothes and direction are not exactly light novel accurate. For example, in the light novel the students were shown to wear their blazers, but the anime removed them and showed them with their simple shirts. Considering Volume 2 took place in an early hot summer, this change is actually a good change even if it's not accurate. Not wearing a blazer gives the students more personality through their clothing choice, and also works as an extra fan service. This is literally the first time I saw Hiyori wearing a vest, and I already love it. It's the same case as Kiryuin. Just from the background on the PV, we knew her introduction will be different compared to the light novel. Although I don't really like how her hair completely covers her right eye, as long as the content of the light novel is adapted properly, all those changes are just minor funny Easter eggs, and it could help to light up more discussion among fans. So far the promotional video doesn't have any real issue as long as we're willing to tolerate the slideshow animation, and the opening and ending songs also sound great. Even though I'm curious why Zack is not the one who sings the opening, because so far they have always filled that role. However, one thing that I can't tolerate is how they handle the White Room student introduction. As you can see in the PV, the silhouette of the White Room student looks like a male, and just from that figure alone, we could exclude the girls and Hosen from the White Room candidate, leaving Yagami and Utomiya as the most obvious suspects. I don't know why they chose to show the silhouette in such an obvious way, and it really ruins the mood if you consider yourself a mystery lover, but that's pretty much all the criticism I had for the newest PV. I am not going to lie, I actually have a pretty good feeling for this new season. I cannot say it will be a masterpiece, but even with all the slideshows, the last scene with Horikita made me decide to put hope in it. As you can see, Horikita moved so smoothly as she took her stance, and this is just a small detail, but I love how she took a karate stance as she got ready to fight. It's only revealed in Volume 11's second year arc that Horikita used karate as her main focus in martial arts, and if the director loves the light novel so much as to add those little details, then there should be nothing to be worried about. Of course this is just a baseless optimism, but sometimes there is nothing wrong with hoping for good things to happen. As long as the quality is consistent, and there is no drama that could prevent Season 5 to be approved, Season 4 will definitely become a cold water in the middle of desert for the fans who's still waiting for the new volume. So, let's just pray Season 4 doesn't become a classroom of presentations.